Mr. Strzok, I don't know where to start. If I could give you a Purple Heart, I would. You deserve one. This has been an attack on you in a way to attack Mr. Mueller and the investigation that is to get at Russia collusion involved in our election, which is what this committee should be looking at. A direct strike at democracy and what this country's about, and free and fair elections, keeping us independent of who is our foe, not our competitor, our foe. I just returned from the OSCE in Berlin, and there is little question among our allies and people and diplomats throughout Europe that Russia is an antagonistic country that is trying to wreak havoc in the Baltics, in the Balkans as well. They tried to use assassination to try to influence the elections in Montenegro, what they've done in Ukraine with Crimea and the Donbass, what they've done in Georgia, what they've done in Moldova. They are the bad guys. And you've dedicated most of your life to working in counterintelligence. One of your big cases, I think, was Donald Heathfield and Tracy Ann Foley. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And that was how many Russian folks did you expose and bring to justice?
Well, that was a long, large investigation that a tremendous number of extraordinary people worked on. There were ultimately, I believe, 10 roughly Russian illegals that were here. But I started out in the early days and was honored to start out. And again, that ran a decade. And
how many Russians were deported for that?
Sir, if memory serves, 10 or 11, but I'm not certain on that number.
Pretty good case that you worked on. A good job.
Case.
Did you work on Russia primarily when you were at the FBI in that area?
At that period, early on, yes.
Are there some things you can tell us about the Russians that maybe we should know before the president meets with Mr. Putin, his very good friend, and a man he cannot say anything bad about?
Well, sir, I can speak to my experience as a national security professional in the FBI. The Russians are a top-rate adversary in terms of their foreign intelligence service, in terms of how competently they are able to use their intelligence service to achieve their foreign policy and national security goals, many of which you referenced, their desire, the threat from NATO, trying to undermine the Western alliance, trying to minimize the role and influence and leadership of the United States around the world, attempting to minimize and undermine the extraordinary greatness of our democracy, to make it seem pedestrian and nothing special and on par with their kleptocracy and near dictatorship that they have, to somehow make us seem less. But that's my intelligence perspective. I wouldn't presume to get into a foreign policy.
They engage occasionally in assassination
they do.
Political rivals?
Yes.
An arrest of journalists for maybe talking and writing about things that the state doesn't believe in?
Yes.
It's not America.
Not at all.
Well, that's unfortunately what the Mueller investigation is looking into, is Russian collusion to influence our election and to influence our politics. And you have dedicated your life to working against that type of involvement and against that type of effort to subvert our democracy and to undermine it. I thank you for that. It's astonishing to me that you would be put on trial as you have today. The beginning of this discussion, this committee meeting, somebody said, we don't want young people to look at the front pages constantly and see things about the FBI that's putting the FBI and the Justice Department in questions and on the front page. Well, I would submit to this committee that the people who are putting that on the front page is this committee, and the people who won't accept what the Investigator General said, that there was no bias involved in the actions of you or others that were investigated. There was found no evidence that the conclusions by the prosecutors were affected by bias or other improper considerations. Rather, we determined they were based on the prosecutor's assessment of the facts, the law, and past department practice. With that as a fact, there's no reason for this hearing. No reason at all. But it puts it on the front page again and again and again. And as you said earlier, the Russians are loving it because this is what they want. This is what they want. You'd think it was Benghazi. It was a never-ending television show from Congress that got nowhere except tried to influence the people that watch Fox News. And that's what this is about. And this is really unfortunate. And as they say, you could put lipstick on a pig, but this is nothing but a ruse to try to get to the Mueller investigation and make people think it's baseless, that it's biased, that it's 13 Democrats that are working on this, and they're prejudiced and they're discriminatory and they're biased because they, just as Jack Nicholson said in the movie, A Few Good Men, you can't handle the truth. And the truth is, this is the most corrupt administration ever, and it's going to be exposed by Robert Mueller. Thank God. I yield back, and I thank you.
The gentleman from Tennessee yields back. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized. Mr. George.
Mr. Strzok, I don't know where to start. If I could give you a Purple Heart, I would. You deserve one. This has been an attack on you in a way to attack Mr. Mueller and the investigation that is to get at Russia collusion involved in our election.
So that was Representative Steve Cohen in the Peter Strzok hearing on Thursday. He represents Memphis, Tennessee, or that area, who said that Peter Strzok deserves the Purple Heart for what he was dealing with in that hearing. I don't know if that was before or after all the Democrats gave him a round of applause after one of his answers. But this particular Democrat took it to a whole new level.
But now he's walking this back.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. He's saying that he meant this metaphorically. Let's listen.
I said something at the hearings yesterday about Purple Hearts, which another network that's named for a four-legged animal has been making a big deal about. I regret using the term Purple Heart. I used it metaphorically, not literally. I never literally thought the Purple Heart should be given to Agent Strzok. But I do believe that he was being attacked because the FBI and the Mueller investigation were under attack.
So the guy who he wants to give the Purple Heart to can't even pronounce his name.
Yeah.
Strzok. And, you know, I wonder what network he was referring to there. Of course, he's attacking Fox News Channel. Right. He's kind of barely apologizing. And ask any... First of all, email us your thoughts on this, friends@foxnews.com. But I bet you know a Purple Heart recipient or know of a Purple Heart recipient. Ask them about their experience, what happened to them to have that medal be given to them. We know a few. We might talk to a few on the program here. You speak metaphorically or literally about that. It's foolish. It means you don't. It's not computing the difference between some agent who has bias and some guy with a rifle on the battlefield.
Wonder how much his walking this back has to do with a midterm coming up and veterans who are planning a protest in his district.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't heard that.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure there are no Purple Heart recipients who got him for sending text messages.
Now, here's the thing. While the grilling was mainly on the Republican side, the other side, the Democrats at one point actually applauded Mr. Strzok, and another by the name of Steve Cohen, a Democrat from Tennessee, said this, which has angered so many vets.
Mr. Strzok, I don't know where to start. If I could give you a Purple Heart, I would. You deserve one. This has been an attack on you in a way to attack Mr. Mueller and the investigation that is to get at Russia collusion involved in our election.
He deserves a Purple Heart. What do you think about that? I heard from one vet who said, look, you don't earn one for testifying. You earn one for being badly injured while serving your nation.
You get a Purple Heart by being wounded or killed by an enemy in war. You cannot compare testifying in front of House members, in front of Congress, to what our men and women have sacrificed.
I don't understand why Democrats felt that they had to run to his defense. They should have been just as outraged by Republicans. Absolutely. This is a guy that screwed up 2 investigations and sat there smugly for 10 hours as if, I dare you to try to nail me down to this. And by the way, his demeanor was oddly like James Comey. A little bit above you. I'll indulge you people for a while. You don't know what it's like to be me and to have a job as important as mine.
And why was he removed from the case? Well, he said he sat down with Robert Mueller for a 15, 20-minute meeting, and Robert Mueller said, you know what, you're off the case.
Some of them were calling him out for having an affair. Do you look your wife in the eye? We're going to play some of these sound bites throughout the show. We will.
Anyway, he said, I wasn't removed because of my bias. I was removed because of the perception of my bias. And it's like, what? Anyway, it was a head-scratcher yesterday. Meanwhile, anti-Trump FBI agent Peter Strzok receiving mostly praise from Democrats on the Hill, one going so far as to suggest that he should be given a medal.
If I could give you a Purple Heart, I would. You deserve one. It's astonishing to me that you would be put on trial as you have today.
So what does an actual Purple Heart recipient have to say in response to those outrageous comments? Let's bring in retired U.S. Marine bomb technician Joey Jones, who was injured in a bomb blast in Afghanistan and lost both of his legs. Good morning to you. What do you think about what Congressman Cohen said?
Good morning, guys. This one hits close to home. There were a lot of things said yesterday that made me roll my eyes in the back of my head, but this was the one thing that got my temper up quite a bit. You know, I've got a friend that lost half of his left arm and some of his organs to a landmine in Cambodia, and he didn't get a Purple Heart. A Purple Heart is a very specific award, and you earn that award by putting your life and your body on the line for the freedoms and people in this country and being called to task on that by the enemy. So you have to specifically be injured by an enemy of the state to earn a Purple Heart. So what this congressman did, and he probably doesn't even understand it, is he equated Republicans or the actual looking for truth to an enemy attacking this man. So it's pretty disgraceful and probably the stupidest thing someone said since Hank Johnson thought Guam might flip over.
Right. On top of that, George Washington came up with the idea. And for him to think because his corrupt behavior and disgraced conduct put him there where he is, this guy wants to give him an award.
Remember, he was having an affair. He was writing his lover anti-Trump text messages while he's a part of the Trump investigation and the Hillary investigation.
You know, to think that they would say he earned a medal by having to stand and listen to people say his own words back to him or read his own words out loud, that's called accountability. Look, a man's personal life is his own doing. He made it public when he put it on a government cell phone and talked about things that were very important to this country and time sensitive. To say that that deserves a medal, not only a medal, but in my opinion, the highest honor of a medal, is absolutely ridiculous. And quite honestly, it's disgusting.
Also, Joey, Sacha Baron Cohen, the filmmaker and comedian, has gone after Sarah Palin. She says she was duped into appearing on a documentary. She was outraged that he was essentially dressed up in a costume as a disabled vet. And you feel very strongly that maybe this guy should be prosecuted for stolen valor.
Well, the Stolen Valor Act is something that's been around as a law and an idea for a long time. In 2013, the Stolen Valor Act of 2013 says if you wear medals and steal those decorations and other service members' stories to benefit yourself financially or in a tangible way, then you can be prosecuted for stolen valor. So I don't know how this comedian dressed for that interview, but if he wore an American uniform, if he wore our medals and makes any type of money off this using that interview, then it seems to me like he's violated that act.
Well, Joey, we'll find out Sunday on Showtime.
Not to mention it's just a horrible thing to do.
He sent out a tweet yesterday from an account from the show, and this is what his response to Sarah Palin, who said she was duped. She said, "It was that I interviewed you. I did not say I was a war vet. I was in service, not military, but United Parcel. And I only fought for my country once when I shot a Mexican who came onto my property."
Yeah, how degrading can you be to the men and women that serve this country? You know, I had a really easy recovery. And 10 months after I lost my legs, I was working on Capitol Hill. But every single day, right now, I'm trying to get a Marine out of the Okaloosa County, Florida, Sheriff's Department. I'm trying to get him out of jail and into rehab and treatment for post-traumatic stress because he's charged with burglary for breaking into a vacant lot and trying to commit suicide. He gave up on life. That's what men and women are dealing with. And to take probably a Purple Heart that he's earned or something like what Sacha Baron Cohen is doing and to make a mockery of the pain that these men and women endure after they serve our country or the honor that they have after serving our country is just absolutely, it's asinine. And to say that some of these people are in charge, some of these people were elected into office, others we pay to see. It's amazing. I know how lucky I have it. People didn't spit on me or call me a baby killer. We live in an amazing country, but I think a certain part of this country really has no idea what it takes to keep it this way.
And that this guy's even part of our country. I'll see if we'll be laughing when General Petraeus and Dick Cheney and now Sarah Palin all seem to have gotten duped by this clown.
And
Thanks
Joey,
so
keep
much.
us posted on that guy in Florida to let us know.
Absolutely.
FBI agent Peter Strzok facing a fierce public grilling on Capitol Hill yesterday. But not everybody was critical of the anti-Trump agent.
I could give you a Purple Heart, I would. You deserve one. This has been an attack on you in a way to attack Mr. Mueller and the investigation that is to get at Russia collusion involved in our election.
Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7, Sirius XM 115, here with the reaction online. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. As conservative lawmakers grilled Strzok for about 10 hours yesterday, Democrats were, as you just heard, singing a much different tune. That was Tennessee's Democratic Congressman Steve Cohen going so far as to praise Strzok for his bravery. But his comments not sitting well with a lot of folks on social media. North Carolina Congressman Mark Meadows tweeted this: the notion that Peter Strzok deserves a Purple Heart is an insult to the honor, valor, and service of men and women who truly earned its recognition. A lot of folks on social media also talking about this, like Angela, who says the Purple Heart is awarded to members of the military who are injured in battle. Peter Strzok sent some mean texts about rigging an election. What a huge insult to wounded veterans. And Christopher also chiming in with this tweet saying, as someone injured in the course of my service, I am beyond appalled at such a statement. So I think Christopher's tweet really sums up this reaction this morning.
Politicians say a lot of stupid stuff.
That's right. That hyperbole
happen.
will get you into hot water a lot of times.
That was a beauty. Hey, we gave Build-A-Bear all this free publicity yesterday, and it turns out it burned him, right?
Oh, did you? I missed that. But yes, I guess we are to blame because people heard about it on the show, and boy, did they flock to those Build-A-Bear stores. So those stores, they had to shut down lines as people really flocked to them for their pay your age promotion. So that means that if you're 5 years old, you get a bear just for $5. Take a look at this urgent tweet that Build-A-Bear sent out saying, per local authorities, we cannot accept additional guests at our locations due to crowd safety concerns. Those poor kids, they waited so long, and a lot of them didn't even get a bear. Kelly says, boy, it better be something like pay your age all month to make up for all those kids that couldn't make a bear. After waiting in line 2 hours, we left the line. Another Twitter user, though, says this: are people really this insane to wait in such lines for a stuffed bear? But here's my favorite tweet. Let's see, do we have it? Oh, somebody called it Hunger Games Toddler Edition.
Well, I mean, look, you can't help it. When a kid wants a bear, you get the kid a bear.
And these bears are really expensive. They could be, what, like up to $65? So if you have a 2-year-old and you're paying only $2, pretty sweet deal.
Wow, curious to see how this one plays out.
They should have known better. It's going to be a mob situation.
That's right.
Start giving stuff away.
I think everybody will survive.
Let's hope. Carly, thank you so much.